Welcome, welcome, welcome to Hat Chat number 27. Hat Chat 27. I can't believe it. We're already at 27. You guys probably are not familiar with the new format if you haven't seen this show before. But basically, Hat Chat is something I started off every single day for about, I guess, 26 episodes, right? So let's say 26 days. And then I decided to switch up the format, but I wanted to bring it back as an option for when a guest needs a specific time slot other than the 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're just coming back from a really great show. We had Steve Heck, showing his knowledge about the German, Austrian, and Czechoslovakian real velour process. If you haven't caught that, I recommend catching it. And if you're just joining us here, hey, Josh, how's it going? If you're just joining us here, that's great. I want to bring out Robert here. I don't want to waste too much more of his time. We'll see how long we have Robert as a captive audience. I'm really glad to have him on here. So let me see if I can bring on Robert now. Robert?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well. Just getting over a cold and the flu.
Yeah.
It was took a quick trip to Toronto and caught the flu and brought it home with me.
Yeah. Understood. I'm actually recovering from the same myself, to be honest.
But I'm recovered now. It's just the last little bit of stuffiness. But I'm 95%. So ready to go.
Well, I'm glad you agreed to come on. Again, this is a very small channel, but we've had some really great participation here. Paul John Murphy is a regular here. He actually apologizes that he can't be here. He's actually on travel, but I told him, I said, if all goes well, then we'll get Robert back here.
Yeah, I've never actually had a conversation with him, and I look forward to that.
Yeah. And then we have Josh here. Josh says good morning. Josh is also a hatter, and I believe you are familiar. He's familiar with you because he's used your videos and has reached out on, I believe, on Facebook. Josh, you can let us know if I messed that up. Yeah. Well, Robert, one thing I wanted to kind of start off with, only for those folks that are not as familiar with your work and your story, if you could just give us a kind of a brief introduction about your. Now, again, I will let you share as much or as little as you'd like about your own personal journey. But usually, I try to ask folks, right, about their life journey, their career journey, and then ultimately their hat journey, because there's a lot of overlap there. So I'll just give you that, and I'll let you do that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Well, where to begin? I've been a lifetime hat wearer. I got my first hat when I was 12 years old. I think that would have been 1961. And it hasn't been consistent through the years because, of course, there was times when hat wearing was definitely out of fashion, and I put the hats aside. But there is a really steady through line of being a hat wearer. Yeah. And about rough figures, about 25 years ago, I began to get back into it in a big way, and I began collecting. Yeah. And so that lasted up until 2017, 2018, and I had amassed quite a large selection of both vintage, custom hats, and then a few modern mass-produced hats. Yeah. And but it reached a point of kind of mass saturation. It's like, well, I've got probably 100 and some odd hats, and I've got one of everything that I ever wanted, but I'm not willing to give this up. It's like, so where do I go from here? So it seemed that the next logical step was to start to understand, how is a hat made? And so I started fooling around, and I would buy old beater Western hats for however cheap I could get them off of eBay. Yeah. and I'd reverse engineer them. I'd tear them down, put them back together again. I'd clean them up and just tried to learn everything I could about hat making, and which has its limits when you're working in a vacuum and trying to figure out things
Yeah.
on your own, because there really is a shortage, or there was at least a shortage of information online. It's like men's hatting is, I don't know, it seems to have been this rather secretive profession, and
Yes.
knowledge is quite held quite close to the chest, because I think it's most hatters view it as it's for them, they're self-taught, it was
Right.
hard won, and it's like, damn it, I'm not going to give this up easily.
Yeah.
You know, let everybody else pay their dues, and I understand that. But that sort of reached a point where it's like, well, how many beater westerns can I tear down and put back together again? So the next logical step was, well, maybe I should like actually learn how to make them.
Right.
And this was just prior to COVID, and it was actually it was a happy mistake, because we found there's a fabric shop in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I live just half hour outside of Vancouver, but my wife and I were in the shop, and I picked up a brochure, and they were offering a hat making class.
Yeah.
And it was $800. It was a week long.
Yeah.
And I was reluctant to spend the money. It's like $800. Like I could buy a couple of custom hats with that.
Yeah.
But my wonderful wife, as she is wont to do, she encouraged me. She said, "No, you should do this. This is a next step for you. You should do it."
Yeah.
So the one, I couldn't make the dates work, so I signed up for the second one, and I totally screwed up, because the first one was fedora making, and the
Right.
second one was just a general hat making course. Now they were both taught by the same teacher, a female, and but the second one was geared more to millinery. So I ended up in a class with I was number 14, and there was 13 women.
Wow.
making fascinators, and then there was me.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting, and not I hesitate because there's an arrogance in there, but it's also
Right.
the truth, because the woman that taught the course, lovely lady, a lifetime milliner, and she also billed herself as a master hatter.
Yeah.
But during the course, we spent a lot of time arguing, because I discovered there's a very distinct difference between the millinery trade and the hat trade. And some
Yeah.
of the practices are very, very different. And
Yeah.
she was teaching hat making from a millinery perspective, of
Yeah.
which I took exception to. And I remember at one point, one practice of the milliners is they separate, at some point in the process, they separate the crown from the brim, and they treat them as two separate objects, and then at some
Yeah.
point they stitch them back together again.
Yeah.
So the teacher, Edie, was watching me, and she said, "Well, when are you going to separate the crown from the brim?" And I said, I'm not." And
Yeah.
she says, "Well, why aren't you?" And I said, "Because my friends who are hat makers would never ever speak to me ever again. I would be kicked out."
Right.
She was kind of gobsmacked at my resistance, but it just really pointed out the difference between the millinery trade and hat making, and there are two very distinct trends. I mean, we both end up with hats in the end, but how you get there can be quite different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um,
fascinating.
so I finished the course, and the arrogant part is that, well, putting the skill part aside, because she was certainly far more skilled than I, with my 10 thumbs, but I actually knew more about hat making than she did.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe it's not such a ridiculous stretch to think that I could go the next step and actually begin to make them. And that's when I made the decision to take that step.
Yeah.
And so
We have a comment here from Josh, Robert. Josh is the other hatter that regularly attends our live streams, and he was just incredulous about separating the crown from the brim.
It would be fascinating. I've long wanted to actually have a sit down with a milliner or a number of milliners, and actually Lena Stein on the Facebook page. We've sort of threatened to do that from time to time, is actually have a like a coffee clatch where we sit down and we talk about the differences between hat making and the millinery trade. And I think it would be fascinating because I'd love to find out the history of like, why do you do that? What is the advantage? Because I'm sure they just didn't make it up. One day it's like, well, I think I'll do this. Like, there are reasons. I just don't know what they are.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, I happen to be, I'm a psychologist by training. Typically in the area of work psychology, and I also straddle the world of survey methodology, right? So a lot of psychologists will implement surveys, and I have my feet planted in both worlds. And there are a lot of things I think that you pointed out that I find that I relate to, only because depending on which group you talk to, you have different ideas, and they're all staunch about it, So it's one of those things where you have to be a really strong person to be able to straddle them, and then also be able to like get them over, right? And and again, sometimes you'll never able to. Sometimes these things become essentially like political beliefs or religious beliefs, and you'll never convince them, right?
And there is I stand to get blowback on this, but I mean that exists within hat making as well, because I think within the hat making trade, it's not 100% accurate, but there's a distinct strain that hat makers are self-taught, because unless you were fortunate enough to be taken on as an apprentice, which some people have, the fortunate ones, but for the most part, hatters out there are just self-taught, dogged, and they just dive in, and it's like, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this, and it's the good old painful trial and error. And so within that, there's many ways to get something done, but there is certain truths within the craft, but hat makers can be very proprietary about, no, my way is the way. When it might be just a way. It doesn't necessarily have to be the way.
Right.
That belief is really heartfelt, as, no, this is the truth.
Yeah. And the great thing is that you were able to break through. So like, I'm going to point out the first comment here by Josh that I'm going to backtrack to. This is a perfect example of what I've seen from you, Robert, that you've touched folks, and you probably do it without even necessarily remembering. It's like, so Josh says, Robert pointed out that I used the wrong ribbon on the hat I'm building. I have made the correction on it. Again, thank you, Robert. That's a great legacy.
Sometimes I think I'm a bit too I don't know, doctrinaire or evangelical, but one of the things is that because there are some common errors that, and they're sort of like, they're honest mistakes, because and ribbon is a prime example, because we all use grosgrain ribbon,
right?
But nowhere is it really explained that, well, there's two types of grosgrain ribbon. There's Petersham, which has the scalloped edge, and then there's the woven edge, and they're both generically referred to as grosgrain. And so for a new hatter, you go online, you buy some grosgrain, and you receive Petersham, which is traditionally restricted to the millinery trade. And I guess the other side of it is that it's much more common out there in the marketplace. It's way easier to buy Petersham than it is to buy good woven edge. And so hatters are making men's hats, but they're adorning them with women's ribbons. Unbeknownst.
The funny thing is, a lot of these things. So you mentioned about like the secrecy, in hat amongst hat makers, right? Paul, the other hatter, he's actually in the UK. He mentioned his admiration for Nick Fouquet and his work, but he was a little frustrated that Nick wasn't as forthright with information as, let's say, yourself or Mikhail over at Huffbud. And it was really frustrating for him, but he understood.
Yeah, and I think, and Nick Fouquet is, it goes back because Nick Fouquet and Steve Westwood, they were partners, and they came on the Fedora Lounge way back when I first became a member.
Right.
And there was just a ton of pushback because, I mean, you got to give Fouquet credit because he was the first to popularize that style, the distress, the festival hat. And I mean, and he had the connections, he had the name, he sold the sizzle, and
right.
But amongst the classic kind of master hatters, there was a lot of pushback because I haven't seen one of his hats in a long time, but certainly in the beginning, they weren't very good because Steve Westwood was the hat maker and Nick Fouquet was the brand. And then Westwood unfortunately passed away. So the hatting knowledge passed with him, and Nick Fouquet stepped into the breach and started making the hats. And quite frankly, they weren't very good, but they were being sold at a huge premium, and the marketplace embraced it. So in a sense, it's hard to criticize success.
I mean, we know the brands have value, right? I mean, that's something that Paul and I kind of agree on. We know about the Rolex. Like, I happen to have a Longines watch. I'm kind of a little bit of a watch guy. It doesn't have the prestige of a Rolex, and in which case that's great for me because I love Longines, and I get to enjoy their watches at a lower price. But it's one of those things you have to kind of make that decision for yourself, your personal situation, how much you value that brand, and then knowing the difference. The great thing about talking to hatters like yourself, Robert, and to Paul, and obviously to Josh, is that you guys know how much the materials cost. You guys know the work that goes into it, and you know what the extra part of it is, kind of like to overhead and for brand.
Yeah. One of the decisions that I made, and I think to new hatters out there, it's a really, really important decision to make in the beginning is, or at least to be open to the discovery of it, is address the question, who am I as a hatter?
Yeah.
Like, where do I fit? Where do I want to fit?
Yeah.
And for me, for instance, it didn't make any sense back in the beginning for me to be making Western hats or festival hats. That's not what excited me.
Yeah.
I'm a classic Fedora guy. That's what I do have the odd Western, but the majority of my hats are classic Fedora stylings.
Yeah.
And I probably have, I don't know, maybe 40 custom hats from like a wide range of custom hat makers. And so for me, it was fairly easy to address the question. It's like, well, who do I admire as a hatter? And the ones that I really admired are guys like Art Fawcett, Mike Miller at Northwest Hats. And they were guys that, like, I could bring them, I didn't even have to bring them a picture. I could just bring them an idea, a description, and it's like from that they could make me a hat. And it was like I admired the hell out of that because, like, it didn't matter what I brought them, it would be like, yeah, I can do that. And it's like, that's who I wanted to be. I wanted to be the maker of classic fedoras where someone could come to me with an idea, and between the two of us we could bring it into reality. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning.
Yeah, and Josh is echoing what you mentioned about the crazy premium on Nick's hats. He also mentions that Zito hats make some great hats, and they're more traditional. I'm not familiar with Zito. Are you, Robert?
I I'd love to go down and visit him. He's out of Oceanside,
Ah,
which is south of LA, I think, between LA
yeah,
and San Diego. And I've seen he's active on Instagram. And
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. He tends towards um, Western stylings
yeah,
rather than fedoras, which I think is interesting for LA. But then I
yeah.
don't I don't know LA from nothing. Um,
Right.
but his hats, and he certainly has a really good reputation
Yeah.
of kind of a hatter to the stars
Yeah.
that also makes a hell of a good hat.
That's amazing. You
Yeah,
gotta love that when you get the best of both worlds.
yeah. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've never looked at his website, so I'm not sure what his price point
Yeah.
is. But it probably reflects the LA market.
Yeah. And Josh had another comment here. He mentioned it's so hard to find books on hat making, but millinery books are easy to find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you go online as well, um, I think it's partially a numbers game.
Yeah.
And I write a column for Hat Talk e-magazine,
Yeah.
and I've been doing that for I'm just coming up to the end of my second year.
Yeah.
And I approached Rebecca, the owner and editor, um, because like there was nothing out there
Right.
for hatting, and I asked her if she ever considered adding a column devoted to men's hat making to kind
Right.
of branch out a little. And she said, funny you should ask, because she says, I've been contemplating that same thing, but I don't know where to go. Would you be interested in writing it? And I
Yeah.
said, you betcha. And um, I have no idea the number of milliners out there, but I know in her contact base,
Yeah.
I don't think they're all subscribers, but within her contact base, she has 15,000 milliners.
Wow.
And a lot of them are centered in Great Britain. That's kind of the epicenter as opposed to the
Yeah.
rest of the world, but it does spread out. And her magazine covers the world. So I think just in pure numbers, the millinery trade is so much bigger than
Yeah.
hat making. That
Yeah.
because when you look, there's so many courses available for all of the different aspects of hat making, and I think that's how a lot of established milliners earn a buck, is they offer online courses for
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
manner of
And
things.
yeah, and Josh added some info on Zito. Again, I'm not familiar with his work, but now I will be after I get off the live stream. I'm going to look up Zito. He
Yeah,
says he
check.
was a former skateboarder turned hatter. It's all handmade, even the jewelry making.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really
and
great.
he is a younger guy, certainly younger than me, which is great because I don't have a whole lot of years in front of me. Whereas I think, I don't know, I'm not very good at guessing age, but he's
Yeah,
like still in his 30s, perhaps.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. Again, it just goes to show you, right? We are a very small community, right? So obviously we have the hat enthusiast community is a smaller community, but obviously hatters are even smaller. And it's amazing that there's still a lot of folks. I haven't been doing this for a long time myself, Robert, but again, at some point you start getting into the idea, oh yeah, I probably know just about all of them. But I love these discussions because it shows me how much more I have to learn. It's not that I didn't know that before, but it really hits you in the face when you go and you talk to other hat enthusiasts.
Yeah, there's all these little pockets, little niches, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you know, you never know as well. There's like my wife and I were in a year ago. We were in Charleston,
yeah,
and we went into Chapel Hats, just a hat store that sells off the kind of
yeah,
tourist hats, lots of straws, and kind of lower end to medium price hats. It was right downtown, geared to the tourist trade.
yeah,
And my wife, who is um, my biggest fan. We
Yeah.
walk into the shop, and the clerk comes over and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Well, we're just kind of looking." And my wife said, "Well, he's a hat maker, so he's always."
Yeah.
And the sales clerk, male in his 30s, his eyes just lit up, and he says, "You're a hat maker?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah." And he says, "So am I."
That's
And
amazing.
so for the next, I don't know, 45 minutes, we stood there and talked hats. And he
Yeah.
was so thrilled that he actually met someone else. And he didn't have a shop. It was just him and um, a woman, not his significant other, but just another woman um, interested in hats. And they'd opened a shop not a shop, but they actually they built them in, I think
Yeah.
it was in her apartment. And they're just starting out, and they had plans, and and it's like, so there's like, if I continue to discover these little pockets,
Yeah.
like it's really exciting. And he was just so excited that, like, you're a hatter, and you've been doing this for years, and you've got a business out of it. And like, he
Yeah.
was so excited because it's like, oh, this is possible. It's
Yeah.
not just a
Yeah.
daydream. Yeah.
Right. It's amazing. So so the thing that you mentioned already so far, Robert, is right, the relationship between yourself and your wife, and how that was probably really pivotal, right, and giving you that motivation, to get started.
Yeah, and it's like it's like when we've been married, next um next March will be our 50th wedding
Oh,
anniversary.
congratulations.
So it's like, in my view, I the day she said yes to my marriage proposal was the day I won the lottery. And
Oh man, that's
it's like, you want
beautiful.
to look at a through line of my life, and it's like her support.
Yeah.
um and some of my ideas have been brilliant, others less so.
Yeah.
But I've she's always had my back, and she's always has been there to give me support. And it's invaluable.
Yeah, it's amazing how when you choose a partner, you don't realize the word partner and how powerful that term really is, right? It really is like, if you are a member of a board of directors, they could never probably equal the amount of sincerity, and support that you could get from having somebody at home that you trust with basically just, hey, honey, my back hurts, something hurts, and you are able to be vulnerable with them. There's a strength in that vulnerability, I think, personally.
Yeah, just to have that. I mean, after 50 years, there's it doesn't even take that long, but there was absolutely no secrets, right? I mean, she
Yeah.
knows who I am.
Yeah, your best and your worst, right?
Yeah, she's seen me at my absolute best, and she's seen me when I've been in the ditch.
Yeah, it's
and
amazing.
and the trust that grows, that um I'm not necessarily, it's the whole concept of unconditional love, because we do have a duty of care to each
Right.
other. So I think there are limitations to the unconditionality, but at the same time, there's this level of trust that's been built up over um, knowing that she has
Yeah.
experienced me at my worst,
Yeah.
and she's still here.
And she's still here. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that, Robert. I mean, I think you've already endeared yourself into, obviously myself, and I'm going to speak for my audience here, and say that nobody can listen to that and not have a high level of respect for you. Besides your work, which speaks for itself as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
I just wanted to say one thing I overlooked, in that, looping back to the question is, who am I as a hatter? Who did I want to become? And one of the things that I consider myself, like, I'm a working class kid. It's like
Yeah,
that's my roots.
yeah,
um, and um, I like nice things, but fancy is kind of not part of my. Um, it's just not part of me.
yeah,
And when I wanted to be my tagline. I don't know if you saw it on my business card, but my tagline is everyday bespoke.
Yeah.
And it's I wanted to be I wanted to offer to the marketplace a well-made custom hat
Right.
for not much more than an off-the-shelf Stetson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like I never, it's like I never aspired to be a Nick Fouquet or
Right.
anyone famous. It's
Right.
like I want to make good, solid, well-made hats for the guy off the street.
Yeah.
And it's been really gratifying now that I'm just closing in on my 7th year,
Yeah.
and so I can say I've done that because a lot of my clients are first time, not they've always been wearers,
Right.
but they've been buying cheaper off the rack hats because that's all there is. Like even if we
Right.
don't have a good hat shop in Vancouver, we
Yeah.
don't.
Same here.
We have one in Granville Island, which it used to be a decent hat shop. They
Yeah.
sold Borsellino, they sold Christie's,
Right.
and then they had a Kubra, so they covered multiple
Yeah.
price points. But now it's low end, and they're tourist hats. They're
Yeah.
impulse buy, sun hats or wool or just
Yeah.
something that hits a price point, and that's as close as we have to a hat shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was really fortunate to get covered by back in the days when we actually had a local newspaper that was delivered to homes,
Right.
and they thought what I was doing was interesting. So I got the cover story about this little old guy in Port Coquitlam making hats in his garage.
Yeah.
And up until that point, my business had pretty much been through the Fedora Lounge.
Right.
But overnight, my business blew up with local people. And who knew that there was such a pent up demand for hats? Because it's like my phone was ringing off the hook. And all of a sudden, my business shifted between half online and half in person.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And the in person were guys. I live in Port Coquitlam, and it's now a suburb of Vancouver. But it initially was a railhead. It was a working man's town. Rail yards, sawmills. Just a resource-based working man's town. And it's still kind of, it's certainly gone upscale, but it still kind of has that vibe to it. And there's a lot of guys my age, retired guys, and they're not wealthy, but they got a buck in their pocket. And
Exactly.
And so it was a treat for them, and they treated themselves to a custom made hat.
Yeah.
And it was so gratifying to service that market because they were thrilled to have this hat. For a lot of them, it was the first time they had a hat that actually fit them.
Yeah.
And the fact that they could choose all of the components into it, so at the end, when they walked out, it was their hat. And it's like, that to me, that's invaluable.
Yeah, and we have so much similarities, Robert, in terms of the working class upbringing. I'm originally from Brooklyn. You go by a Belfast boy on the Fedora Lounge. The similarities, and then when I hear you talk about these folks that you grew up with, I can't help but think of my dad. My dad, who's 86 years old now. He's a little bit. He's got a little bit of dementia, but he still does okay. He got a little bit of a problem walking, but he still has a great attitude, and probably a very, very, like, the number of zeros in his bank account is probably so low that you probably feel bad for him unless you met him. You wouldn't know it from meeting him. He's rich in spirit, but not in dollars. And there's something beautiful about it.
I was joke with my wife that she married a guy that I've always been pretty good about making money,
Yeah.
less so about keeping it.
Understood. Yeah, yeah. It's it's again, it's part of those things. It's a lot of people don't understand that concept as well. And again, I tend to get preachy sometimes, but I my son's 26 years old. He makes more money than I do. And I'm proud of that. Not just because he makes more money than I do, but it feels like, okay, at least I set him up to not have to worry and not to do without. And there's a certain kind of a certain level of pride that one feels. And I try to go, and like my nephews that are much younger, and essentially the kids, my brother's grandkids, who would have thought, like, my brothers are having grandkids now, and mine, I don't have a grandchild yet, but that probably will happen. My son has a serious girlfriend. He's living in Washington, D.C. I'm going to wait for that call any day now. Say, hey, Dad, you know anything about weddings? And I love out, again, even though I think there's plenty of time, but I really do like that the person that he's with, that he's partnered with. And I wish him all the best, because that's part of the journey, right? That's part of my journey, in my life journey, is seeing his journey.
Yeah. Yes.
One thing you mentioned here that I have to come back to, because I asked Paul this, Paul from the UK, because he described going through the process, and essentially, like, for myself, Robert, I don't know how to stitch anything, like. And you went in there in a classroom full of other women. Was there any kind of intimidation that you felt?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure where it came from. Like, I'm not sure. But one of the through lines of my life, and I think it served me really, really well, is I always joke that my tagline is "Dare to Fail."
Yeah.
And goodness knows, I've done my share of failing, but I've also had my successes, and the one thing that has served me is the willingness to jump in, jump in and succeed or fail. But my wife and I talk about it a lot. And it's no theory.
Yeah.
We're going to find out in real time. It was like, we're not going to, it's like, I think I'm a fairly methodical person. I think I'm rational, and I tend hopefully not to do rash things, but at the same time, at some point, it's like, I just have to jump in.
Yeah.
And one other thing, though, is, as I said earlier about my arrogance around the instructor Edie, that I knew more about hatting than she did.
Yeah.
I had no skills, but I had the knowledge of how a hat was made. But the one thing I did have was, my father passed away when I was 10, and I was raised by my mom and my older sister. So I was pretty good at. I knew how to sew. I mean, not machine stitch, but like my mom, single mom. I was 10 when Dad died, and I had a younger brother who was 1. So my mom was like totally otherwise engaged.
Right.
And so I was pretty much left to my own devices growing up, which was awesome. I loved it. But I had to learn. I knew how to cook. If my shirt needed a button sewn on, I could do that.
Yeah.
Wasn't pretty, but or if my jeans needed mending, I know how to do that. So it's the funny thing is, I also, once in a while, maybe a couple of times a year, I'll teach a weekend class on hat making.
Yeah.
Just for, not for people who want to become hatters, but just they want to solve the mystery of, they want to make themselves a hat. They want to have experience. And so they've taken my class twice now, but it's two guys that live just down the street from me. And 2 years ago, they took the first class. And honest to God, neither of them, I had to teach them how to thread a needle.
Yeah.
Neither of them had ever held a needle in their hand before.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, like, it had never dawned on me that someone wouldn't know how to, because I grew up, I knew how to do that. It's like I didn't know how to fix a car. I didn't know how to build things with wood.
Yeah.
I could cook and I could sew.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Again, I joke about this again, Robert. If you ever scroll through some of my past live stream, because again, I'm a psychologist by trade. I'm fascinated by the idea of the man that says he knows everything, right? If you want to know like somebody that's lying, you go and ask somebody, do you know this, and that, and they tell you yes to everything. You either met the most interesting man in the world, or you got a liar. And it's not like he's lying because he's just a scoundrel. He's lying to protect his self-esteem.
Yeah.
And and you pointed out the car thing and the woodworking, because those are the two areas where guys hate admitting that they don't know what they're doing. And if you want to test that out, just work on your car outside your neighborhood if you're allowed to. Because some neighborhoods, they don't allow you to work on a car, HOAs.
Yeah.
And if you're able to go and do that and test me out, you will probably get at least one gentleman, assuming that it's during hours that are reasonable. You'll get at least one gentleman that comes over and says, "What are you doing? What you doing there?" And then you'll tell them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'd help you, but I'm tearing down a tranny, or an engine in my back right now, and I'm occupied. But I can tell you everything you need to do."
Yeah, it's like I was the first Gault to go to university,
right?
And I was there for 5 years, and when I left, it was like, and this goes back to the days when it's like I had no idea. I didn't go to university to be anything.
Yeah.
And I was this idealist, and I wanted to go to university because I wanted to sit at the feet of the masters and study the big ideas of the world.
Right.
It's like this whole Socratic method. And it was like, I was so, well, I was crushed when I found out that, okay, it's not like that.
Yeah.
But I left university after 5 years, and it's like I had no qualifications, drank a lot of coffee, smoked a lot of cigarettes, discussed a lot of stupid ideas, but I had no training. But I was so fed up. It's like I never wanted to read another book. I never wanted to read and write another essay. It's like, dear God, like just shoot me now. And so what I did was I made a list. It's like, okay, what are all of the things that I don't know how to do? And I made this really long list, and at the top was auto mechanics, and then there was carpentry, and there was all of these kind of guy things that I never got to experience. And so I decided that I wanted to be an auto mechanic.
Yeah.
And again, this goes back to the 70s. And so what I did was, it was back in the day when you could actually do this. I went around and I started knocking on gas station doors.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And just said, I want to be an auto mechanic. And a lot of them looked at me like, so?
Right.
But I actually got one guy he was a one man. He owned the shop, and his gas jockey had just quit.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I'll make you a deal. You pump gas for me. And when you're not pumping gas, you come into the shop with me and I'll teach you.
Yeah.
So it was the best, so I'm earning money. It wasn't a high volume gas station. And so I spent a lot of the time in the shop. He let me bring my car in after hours and use the hoist. So I became an auto mechanic.
Right. Wow.
And I did it long enough to decide, dear God, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I scratched that itch.
Yeah. You went and jumped into it.
And then I did that. I built myself I had no furniture.
Yeah.
So I built myself some furniture. It was horrible. It was crude, but it worked,
Yeah.
and it was like, I built
Functional.
it. So I went through the list and then I decided, okay, at this point, I guess I should consider getting a job, like a real job, and
Yeah.
that. But it was so I think the hatting kind of fits into that, where it's just the sense of like, just jump in,
Yeah. Yeah.
sink or
And
swim.
I just love the fearlessness, right? And again, I'm exaggerating here. You could have said, Luke, it was not fearless. I was scared to death. But the way you describe it to me is ballsy. I can't think of a better word other than ballsy. And pardon my crassness, but it's ballsy.
And there, I mean, and not to say that, I think the other thing is, not to say that I'm fearless, because I'm not.
Yeah.
A lot of days I'm fearful.
Right.
And I think fear is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's served a really positive purpose in my life, because it propels me.
Yeah.
It propels me forward. But it's also like, fear is my friend, because it's the fear that stops me from jumping off the cliff, because it's
That's
like,
right.
no, sometimes fear is real.
That's
and
right.
You got to listen to it. It behooves you to listen to it.
That's right.
It's I mean, it's less so now, but I mean, the first, particularly if I'm selling a hat online, the day that I take it to the courier, it's like there's always butterflies in my stomach. There's always this flutter, this trepidation of, not so much is he or she going to like it, because we've gone through the process and they've seen pictures all through the, I don't ship it until they've approved the look. But it's that, will it fit? Will it fit? Will it meet their expectations? And it's like, I still go through that, which I think is a good thing, because it propels me to be better.
Yeah.
The other thing I neglected to mention is, I was 2 years into my hatting, and back up. Initially, I had bought 3 hats from Art Fawcett.
Yeah.
And he's down in Medford, which is about a 12-hour drive from here, 14-hour drive. And he'd retired, and he had agreed to help me out.
Wow.
Just mentor me a little bit. And it was wonderful. And then, but the window was, he was planning on moving to Florida.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, I'm not going to Florida.
Yeah.
Oregon I can do. And but then COVID hit, and they shut the border down.
Yeah.
So that door was slammed shut. So there was like pretty much 2 years where the border was closed. And but as it turns out, Art decided that he didn't want to move to Florida, so he stayed in Oregon. And then the border closure was lifted, and I contacted him and asked if the offer was still open, and he says absolutely. So Elaine and I hopped in the car and we drove down, and I got to spend time with him, and it was actually more effective, because instead of being green, I had 2 years of actual, like, I was making hats, I was shipping hats.
Right.
I had experience, and I'd actually sent him a video of me of making a hat. So when I got there, he saw my work. He saw, he saw my process. So he was actually, it wasn't theory. It was like, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how you can do it better. And he joked, and he says, I don't know what it is about you. He says, but it seems as though if you have a choice between doing something the easy way and the hard way, he says, why the hell do you always choose the hard way?
Yeah. Work
And
smarter, not harder, right?
yeah, and he says, they do it this way. And it was like, oh my God. So it
Yeah.
was like, it was wonderful. I mean, two things. It nudged me into a much more efficient pathway, but it
Yeah.
was also validating in that, because at this point I was self-taught. I'd figured things out on my own, and it
Yeah.
was validating in that it's like, okay, my instincts are right. I
Yeah.
might not be doing it the most efficient way, but I'm doing it the right way.
Yeah.
And I can, and here's how I can do it better. So it worked out really, really. It was just wonderful in the end because I got to tap into arts. I think he retired just before he'd made his 5,000th
Wow.
hat.
What a legacy. What a
Yeah,
legacy, Art. And again, I don't know if you still stay in touch with Art. Hopefully he's doing fine and well in Florida if he's still there.
he's still living in Oregon,
Oh, in
and
Oregon. Okay.
he has a he has this spread up on a hill that overlooks the valley, and
Yeah.
it's like, in my view, I love Oregon,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
this is like one step close to heaven. Like, it's awesome. It's just this beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
view of overlooking the valley and then the mountains on the other side of the valley, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think. And
The way you describe, Robert, that again, what inherent in everything you've described up to now has been this idea of the mentor-mentee relationship. You know what I mean? So obviously, it goes both ways. You now serve as a mentor, but you still look to folks like Art as a mentee. And I think there's something very beautiful and very analogous to like the martial arts. And I know nothing of martial arts other than I'm a fan of Bruce Lee and I watch MMA. But I feel like the idea of a lineage, and I've had this discussion with Paul when he was on, that again, the idea of a master that goes into a sabbatical and goes and chooses to commiserate with another master just so that he can, one, refine his craft, and he or she is better able to teach that craft moving forward. There's something beautiful about the ongoing process there is of perfecting and refining your craft.
and it's one of the things that I shall always remember saying of Art, and that Art was a mason, a bricklayer by trade. Him and his dad. His dad was a career bricklayer, and Art went into the trade.
Yeah.
And they did really high-end Architectural Digest installations in the LA area. And his dad was a master, and Art learned at the feet of a master.
Yeah.
And his dad was like a taskmaster in terms of perfection. And there was one day towards the end of his father's career, it was the end of a very hard day, and the job was just finishing up, and it was the last couple of placements, and it wasn't quite right. But Art heard his dad say, and Art said something, and Art's dad said, "That's good enough."
Yeah.
And Art said, in that moment, he made a vow that in whatever he was doing, if he ever caught himself saying that, it was time to go.
Yeah.
That was the indication that I'm done here, because I'm accepting less than I'm able.
Yeah.
I'm settling. And he said, I never, ever want to do anything where I'm settling.
Yeah.
I thought, like, that's like, I just think that's brilliant.
Yeah, agreed. Completely agree. And obviously, I don't know Art. If he ever wanted to join here, he's always any hatter that wants to join this channel to have a discussion with other hatters. Obviously, I'm not a hatter. I'm just somebody that wants to learn more and provide a forum for other hatters to get together and commiserate. And I know that that's something very near and dear to your heart, Robert. because you do that.
One of the things that and if I hadn't been able to study under art, like I never would have made the video.
Yeah.
Because I had tons of trepidation when Rebecca approached me about making an instructional video.
Right.
My first reaction was fear.
Right.
Because here I am putting my ideas out on for all the world to see.
Yeah, you're putting it out there to be criticized and whatever.
But what I came back to is my observation that, and I think it's still true, is that us hatters were self-taught. It's, it's like we have this idea, we jump in, and we make a hat, for better or worse, and we struggle through, and we redo it, and then there's the reticence of other hatters to share their knowledge. But my thought was, there's a lot of hatters out there struggling, doing things incorrectly, out of ignorance.
Right.
Wouldn't it help the craft if we were to share the right way of doing it? Because the people that are making hats the wrong way, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on doing
it. Yeah.
So wouldn't it make sense for us to provide some instruction so they get started on the right foot, and then in the doing, we serve the craft. We serve to advance the craft of hat making.
Yeah.
It's like we're not doing it for them. Like they still have to make the damn hat, but at least it gets them maybe out of the struggle.
Yeah.
And into the pathway where the hats that they produce are better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is you bring up a great point, right? Because it reminds me of that great saying: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. There's a truism there that there's a wisdom within those words that even belies the simplicity of the statements. Because again, we tend to assume it's always been done that way. It should be continued to do that way. No, that's not how innovation happens. With that kind of thinking, you don't have innovation and the refinements and the evolution, and sometimes the revolution in any field. So one thing I wanted to bring back here is, and again, even though I welcome all sorts, we know that our hat hobby is full of guys. We're a very male-dominated, hobby. But what, and I can't help that I won't apologize for the fact that I'm a man. But one of the things I like to make analogies to, right? It's like the idea of you never forget your first, right? And I'm just going to keep it there. Your first girlfriend. I'll just keep it at your first girlfriend or your first boyfriend, right? Morgan's a moderator. Morgan's here and she's watching. She is a female. She's 19 years old, Robert. I think I'm close to 50 years old myself. So when I see somebody that's 19 years old, is a female, and is kind of leading the charge there for that next generation, and they really love the hobby, I just think it's great. For me, I just I get touched by that.
Yeah, I coached boys baseball for a lot of years, and it's like I think I just love teaching, and helping, like somebody that has that spark, and then if I can provide a little bit of insight that helps them get better, and it grows the spark, because I've also seen, just really in my 7 years, which really is not that long, but actually in hat life it is quite long, because I've seen a lot of hatters come and go.
Right.
Generally, guys, they start with this excitement, and it's like, I'm going to be a
Yeah.
hatter. And then it just, at
Yeah.
some point reality sets
Right.
in, and it's, I mean, because it is a very tough row to hoe.
Right.
And there's a lot more hatters that drop by the wayside than actually um, get to hang their shingle out over a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. For every Art Fawcett, there's how many more hatters that you didn't hear about because they didn't stick it out, right?
Yeah.
And Josh says here, I agree wholeheartedly, which is why I love critiquing. I need to know what I'm doing wrong and how to fix it so I can grow and be better.
The other thing I keep thinking of, one of the things that, as I told you, I sent Art a video. It was a 45-minute video of me making a hat. So it was well edited, but it gave him a sense of my methodology. And when we got there and we sat down in his office, and he said, "I hope you wore your asbestos underwear."
Wow.
He says,
that's powerful.
Because he said, "I'm going to burn your ass."
Yeah.
And it was like, I love that. It's like, I just drove 14 hours. Don't you dare bullshit me. Don't you dare, shine me. It's like, I want to know, it's like, I want to know. If
don't
my
hold
ego,
back, right?
If
don't
my
hold
ego
back.
is too fragile to handle it, then I'm in the wrong place. I'm in the wrong business. And it's
exactly.
like, that's the other thing I've noticed is, I mean, I think it's probably it's the human. You would know this. It's the human experience where our egos are fragile, and we are so invested in the fruits of our labor. And if someone comes along and critiques it harshly, we could be crushed. But it's like no advancement unless somebody's willing to tell you the truth.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was gonna start on this, and I guess I derailed myself. I tend to do that. It's one of my many weaknesses as a human being is that I'll have some kind of great idea, and then my brain will take me somewhere else. But what I was getting at, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully somebody out there can relate to that. You're like, I have so many great ideas, and then when it comes down to it, I get back. I just do that. But what I wanted to go is Josh, right? Josh he just got his first commission, his first hat commission, and he wanted to describe that I was working on the restoration of a hat, and my neighbor saw me working and ordered a hat for me for his dad. So that was his first commission, and again, I always say, well, you never forget your first. So Robert, is that it? Do you have like a memorable first hat that I don't believe you spoke about that, but I just wanted to ask that question.
I mean, I guess there's waves in that. When I first made the decision, it's like, okay, I'm going to hang my shingle out and declare that I'm a hat maker. And so the first hats I made were, and again, it's cliched. But friends and family,
right?
And I would make hats for family, extended family, and friends, and I would sell them at my hard cost, just to get the cost of materials back, which then I could buy another set of material and make another hat. So the idea was that my training would only cost me my time, not money out of pocket.
Right.
So so there's that wave of hats, and I made one for my I was still working at the time, and so I made one for my boss. I made one for my niece-in-law's father. I made in my whole life, I've made one indie hat.
Wow.
And I think I think that might have been the second hat I made, and it was for a friend who wanted a brown Indiana Jones hat. So those are, and then another one I made a black stingy brim for a friend. So those are the four that it was kind of a rat pack.
Yeah. Oh,
But
You
the
bring
other,
up a great point. But go ahead, continue, Robert. I'm
it's
sorry.
like
I
so
didn't
just
want
one of so there was that and that, you know, and I got the hats were well received, and then um I decided that okay now, and I was a member of the Fedora Lounge,
Yeah,
and I felt emboldened, so I actually declared on the Fedora Lounge that I was open for business,
yeah.
and Brent Dinatly,
Right. Nanatli, yes.
um,
Deadly handsome.
deadly handsome. I think he was my first customer from the
Right.
lounge, and Brent being like a mad collector,
Yeah.
certainly had bona fides,
Yeah.
and so I made him a hat, and he gave me a stellar review,
Yes,
and
I saw that.
that was instant credibility. You know,
Correct.
it's like okay, if Brent says the hat's good,
Yeah.
it's good, and so then it was almost like overnight business because all of a sudden
Yeah.
then orders started to trickle in and flow in, and
Yeah.
it's like overnight I got a business.
Yeah.
And then as I said, the local paper did a profile on me, and then the the regional news hour picked it up, and they do a segment called "This Is BC," where they look for
Yeah.
interesting people doing interesting things. And so he read the newspaper article, and so they did a profile on me, and it's I don't know what they call it in the business, but it was like filler. So they
Yeah.
came in and they spent 3 hours interviewing me, shooting footage,
Yeah.
and I remember at the very end, the cameraman said to me, he said, "Look," he says, "I wouldn't," he says, "don't get too excited about this." He says, "Because all of this footage," he says, "it's going to be edited down to 2 minutes and 15
Right.
seconds." He says,
Yeah.
he says, he says, "Forget about 15 minutes of fame." He says, "Son, you're
Yeah.
going to get 2 minutes and 15 seconds."
Yeah.
And so I was at the end of the news hour, but 2 million people saw it.
Wow.
And again, my phone blew up again. And this time
Yeah.
it was orders from across Canada.
That's amazing.
So, I mean, I've been just like shithouse luck, you know?
Yeah. Well, again, it's a little bit of both, right? I mean, there's obviously a confluence of factors that are probably attributable to your success. Not the least of which is your wife, your ballsiness. I'm gonna, for lack of a better term, and again, the idea that you do not see failure as an obstacle, right? You see it as, there's that famous saying that says, I never lose. I win or I learn. It's a great attitude. And I feel like that it's no accident that you have gotten to where you're at. And that you're devoting a lot of your energy to helping others get to where they want to get to. I think that's a beautiful process. And we need more of that.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. Like I said, it's one of those things where it's like it's very noteworthy. Because again, it's kind of like the idea of, if you see people, you look at people when they don't know that you're looking at them, and I've seen a lot of your interactions with hat enthusiasts as well as hatters, and I'm looking at it, and you don't know I'm looking at it, but I'm like, oh man, Robert's doing a great thing here. Man, I love that. And then you'll never know. And I feel like there's so many people that have seen you interact with others. And it's setting such a great example because, again, I just happen to have, and I could be very biased, I feel like this hat hobby has some of the best people in it. We have our guys that, that we don't, just like in any circle, there are going to be folks that you're like, all right, I wouldn't care to hang out with that person. But in general, we're some great people.
Yes, absolutely true.
Yeah. And I feel like there's something about a hat, right? It's like a reciprocal relationship. Wearing a hat, wearing a fine hat, right? Because no offense to those folks that love ball caps and the trucker hats. I used to wear them when I was a teenager. Not a big fan of them. My son wears them still. But there's something that when you wear a fine hat, that it makes you want to be a better person. You stand a little taller,
It's I've made my wife is the recipient of my experiments, so
Yeah.
she has lots of hats.
Yeah.
And now we pretty much say we never go out without a hat on.
Yeah.
And so we've lived in Port Coquitlam for 33 years now.
Yeah.
And we frequent the same places. We've been going to the Costco and the Save On grocery store across the street ever since they
Yeah.
opened. And so we know people, but
Right.
not rather they know us
Yeah.
because we're the hat people.
Yeah.
And so we get wherever we go, we're greeted with, "Hey, how you doing?" And it's like
Yeah.
they don't know. I mean, they now know that, okay, he's the hat maker,
Yeah.
but it's like we're the hat people.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where it was on a hot day and we went to our local craft brew place, and we just ran out and we didn't put a hat on, and we walked
Yeah.
in and it's like the server was like, "Where the hell's your hat?" It's like, you can't do that. It's like, we don't recognize you.
Right.
So it's very much become part of
Your uniform, right?
it is, honest to God, it's our uniform, and it's our
Yeah.
it's our identity, and it's
Yeah.
also a conversation starter. Because
Yes.
people will often, I have this belief that there's a lot more people out there who would like to be hat wearers
Yes.
than are hat wearers, but there's just something, um, a self-image, a self-concept where they can't, because if you talk to them, it's like, well, I don't know, it's not for
Yeah.
me. But inside, there's a secret desire that they would love to be a hat wearer,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
just can't bring themselves to and I think
Yeah.
that's a shame.
Yeah.
It's like,
I agree. Because again, when you wear a fine hat, you're saying to society, I'm okay not being cookie cutter. It's a certain power to it. It almost is like wearing a cape, like a uniform, like a superhero costume. And people admire that because there's something very theatrical about it in the eyes of, for me, I wear a hat because, hey, I wouldn't go outside without a hat, a fine hat. And for other folks, they think of it as like a heroic act. It's amazing.
yeah. And that's the other thing too that I've witnessed with, when people come in to buy a hat, particularly like if it's their first good hat, and first of all, they're brave enough to take the step, but they're self-conscious to the point where it has to be a narrower brim and a lower crown, because all of a sudden there's this foreign object on their head that even if it's a low crown, like a pork pie, it still feels like this enormous thing sitting upon their head. And but after a while they grow accustomed to that and it becomes more familiar to them. And so then if they come back to buy a second hat, oftentimes it's like they're emboldened. So it's like the crown gets a little higher, the brim gets a little wider, and I keep nudging them, it's like, and then and it's like, well, look, I've made this offer to a number of customers. It's like, I'll make you a wider brim, take it away, and if you guarantee me you'll wear it for 3 months, if it doesn't feel right, bring it back. I'll remake it. I'll trim the brim for you, but it's like, you got to give it a shot. And it's like, nobody has ever come back and taken me up on the offer, because it's like,
you know what you're doing.
they've grown into the hat, and all of a sudden it doesn't feel like this
That's right.
enormity sitting upon their head, and it's
it's amazing, the transformation.
It's part of being a hat evangelical. That's my
we are. I mean, and my favorite reaction, Robert, has always been the kids, because kids are so honest, right? For me, some of the greatest reactions that I've gotten on out in the wild, so to speak, has been from kids, because they're always, I'll walk by, because I tend to walk around my neighborhood, and they're like, "Mommy, like, look at that." You know what I mean? And they don't know, like, other people probably think the same thing, like adults, but they're not. They have like that filter that we've grown to have, where we're not going to point out the weird guy with the thing on his head. At least in their minds, that's what they're thinking. But the kids will say it. One kid asked me, "Hey, do you kidnap people?" I'm like, well, God bless you, little girl. No, I do not kidnap people. But don't talk to strangers. I didn't want to like, but I'm like, I just like was fascinated by that. The honesty. I'm like that person, that little girl should be in a boardroom, and hopefully with that same attitude and that honesty to drive a company to make sure that there's no bullshit that's happening, because there's too much bullshit out there. And one thing I want to make sure, Robert, because again, I've taken up a little bit, quite a bit of your time, and hopefully you're having fun, because I'm having fun.
Yeah, I set the morning aside, and I've got a customer coming at 2:00.
Okay, perfect. We're gonna have you. We're not gonna have a Robert being tardy. But one thing I wanted to mention was the Rat Pack, because I did read that article about your inspiration about Frank Sinatra, and it touched me because as somebody that is a little bit younger than you, Frank Sinatra is. If you study the hat history, and you probably yourself, definitely know that Frank Sinatra was an icon for so many reasons. But for hat wearers, he might as well be on that Mount Rushmore of hat wearers. Talk a little bit about Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack, to the degree that you're comfortable speaking about that.
I remember the hat that I bought, and I had my first job when I was 12.
Yeah.
And I worked in the carnival. My older sister's boyfriend, he worked in the carnival, and so he got me a job. And so from the time I was 12 onward, I had pocket money because I had a job.
Yeah.
And back in the day, it was dressing well was a thing.
Yeah.
And so I spent an inordinate amount of my money on clothes. I was like the best dressed 12 and 13-year-old ever. And so one day I decided that I needed a hat, and I'm thinking that I can't remember how much I paid for it. It escapes me, but I'm thinking it must have been wool. I don't think I would have sprung for a fur felt hat, but it was a black stingy brim, very much like a Frank Sinatra. And the reason I bought it was because that was it at the time. Like that was the style.
Yeah.
Other than a Western hat. And given that I live in an urban environment, Western hat just wasn't an option. So it wasn't as if I was not that sophisticated, and Frank Sinatra, I was not a fan as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It was just I remember I had a gray wool blazer, and so I needed a black hat to complement my gray blazer. So and I really, I've lost so much of my stuff over the years, but I really do regret, because it would be so much fun if I still had that hat. There'd probably be nothing left after the moths had eaten it, but it still would be cool to actually have that hat. But alas.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Robert. There's so many thoughts that's coming to my mind. I can only think of my own hat journey. I had something very similar, but again, I didn't get into fine hats until well into my 40s. So I wasn't 12 years old. I do relate to the idea that you mentioned, that when you're that age, you mentioned that you were 12, you got your job. I wasn't working at 12. I got my first job much later on in life, but because we have similar backgrounds, like working class backgrounds, I do remember always wanting to dress nicer. And for me, it was because of my dad. Right? I have very distinct, sometimes people will compliment me on my photographic memory, especially for movies. And I feel like images for me, they stick in my mind. For myself, my dad getting ready to get ready for work, because he always had a process where my dad, he didn't wear a hat, but my dad this would be like the 70s and 80s, he would push back his hair. Like after he got out from the shower, he'd be in the mirror pushing back his hair, and then he would go and obviously, maybe he'll grab some deodorant and put it on, and then he'll reach for a cologne, a bottle of his favorite cologne, and dab it on, and then he put on his t-shirt, and then he grabbed his watch. So you can already see where this is going. My role model was my dad, and I feel like that's very common. I know you shared that you lost your dad early on, but maybe Frank Sinatra, that because Frank Sinatra was iconic. He was the male role model, that icon for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think my dad. I mean, given that your dad's like 10 years older than I,
yeah.
So my dad, I have tons of pictures of my dad from the 30s and the 40s, and even into so he passed in 1960, so just kind of at the end of the hat era. And it's like my father, he never left the house without a hat on his head. And in most of the pictures I have, even when he was out in the backyard working, he had a fedora on his head. And I remember he owned two hats, and he had his dress hat. He was a salesman, so he wore a suit and a tie and his hat. That was his daily uniform. Then the hat would sort of get rotated down, because then he had his garden hat. And so it's like when the dress hat became no longer dressy enough, that would be relegated, and he would get a new dress hat. And and it was always brown. I don't recall him ever having a gray hat, and he never had two hats. He never had a gray one and brown. It was always brown. And I think maybe he just always just wore he wore a lot of tweed, and I think he just wore like brown tweed, and it was easy because his brown hat would go with it.
That's amazing. So for me, it was my grandfather. I've never met my dad's father. My family is originally from Puerto Rico, the island of Puerto Rico, and like a lot of Puerto Ricans, my dad came over in 1958, same year as my mom. They didn't know each other, but they came in that same year, because essentially the 50s, if you were coming in the 50s, chances are you were coming in with a lot of other people, So they both came in to the U.S. And my dad settled in New Jersey. My mom settled in New York, and my dad eventually worked, and his brothers came over as well, and they went and got themselves jobs, and then brought their old man, right, my grandfather, over to the U.S. from Puerto Rico. And there's a photo that I have, and I shared it on my YouTube channel on my post section. My first photo was a photo that I managed to secure from one of my cousins of my grandfather with a fine hat on. And he was a very tough man. Again, I don't know, I've never met him, but my dad told me stories. There were about 10 brothers. And my granddad was not somebody that you messed with. So, and in that photo, it's probably one of the few, you could probably count them on the one hand, one of the few times you saw that man smile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they were farmers. We were talking about the idea of the kind of work that you do dictates a lot of your personality. And farmers, if you go and you study farmers in any kind of capacity, you will see that they're people that when they take photos, they're like this.
Yeah, the American Gothic.
Yeah, they're not people like Luke, always smiling. And I love that about myself, but I am connected to that idea that I come from farming people, and somebody like myself, they probably look at me and say, "What are you smiling at? Like, what's going on?" You know what I mean? They'll think there's something wrong with me. That guy's probably crazy, because what are you always smiling?
Yeah.
It's funny.
And I think a bit of a digression, but I think that it's like I know my parents' story, and certainly my grandparents' story.
Yeah.
And it's like my parents, both of them, dirt poor, like
Yeah.
just dirt poor,
Right.
and moved out just prior to the Second World War, and then kind of caught the wave after the Second World War, and flowed up into the middle class. Right, it was like for the Gaults and my mom, the Hansons, like
Yeah.
they dragged themselves out of poverty
Right.
into the middle class, which a lot of people did in post-war North America.
Yeah.
But it's like forgetting. It's like my dad's first job when he moved to Vancouver is like he worked the kiln floor of an abattoir.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was I remember when I think I was 5, and I don't know why he did it, and I think it was like to show me this is where I come from, son.
Yeah.
But he had already been promoted, and he was a salesman. I remember him because he was wearing a suit. But
Right.
we were on a catwalk that overlooked the killing floor, and
Yeah.
they were killing hogs that day.
Wow. Yeah.
And I just remember as a 5-year-old standing on the catwalk, looking down, and just being like horrified, terrified, and fascinated
Yeah.
that there was hogs hanging from the ceiling that were as big as cars. It seemed to a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
It was like I'm pretty sure it was my dad saying, "Son,
Yeah.
this is where I come from."
Right. Wow. That's so beautiful, right?
And I think that it's like, I mean, we have grandnephews now, and my niece and nephew are wealthy. Like
Yeah.
they've done so well for themselves, and they live in a $5 million and an $8 million home, and
Yeah.
and so and their sons, they each have two children, and it's like the abundance that these children are growing into, and
Yeah.
it's like I fear we're losing where we came from,
Yeah.
and the lessons that we gleaned from that.
Yeah.
And I just fear that we're losing something very huge.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I try to be as optimistic as possible, Robert, but I can't help but agree with you because again, I'm a member of Generation X. You would probably be a baby boomer. If I had to guess.
Yeah, I'm at the front edge. I'm at the front
Yeah.
edge of the baby boomers.
Yeah, yeah. So we know that my grandparents, your parents, they were probably folks that were around when the Great Depression happened. And again, I have no idea in terms of their status here in the U.S. But we do know that the silent generation was that generation that experienced a very different American experience, right? Not one of prosperity like the baby boomers and obviously everything that came behind the baby boomers. The baby boomers are probably the most successful in terms of financial assets generation that has existed, in our short history here. But the idea is that, these lessons, even though you never wish that hard times fell upon the next generations, there is a beauty to be able to go through the process of struggling and still maintain your dignity, still maintain your values and your morals, and then being able to pass that down. And there has to be some sort of happy medium that we have to kind of be comfortable with as folks that are okay with progress, but we also don't want to lose out on some of those values that have helped us get here, right? Like dance with the one that brought you here.
Yeah.
It's very preachy. I know I get that way sometimes, but I feel like it's important.
It's that sense of resiliency that is born out of struggle.
Yeah.
It's like um, upward Vancouver and the province of British Columbia.
Yeah.
Um, it's changed now, but for much of my adult life, it's been a resource based
Yeah.
economy
Right.
and subject to the boom and the bust. And
Yeah.
um, I've worked for companies that have gone bankrupt underneath me. Companies have closed. I've been laid off.
Yeah.
All of those things that
Right.
um, you just got to find a way.
Yeah. Yeah. This too shall pass is a one of those phrases and those sayings that are more powerful than the. It's like the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
Wow, man! Wow, we've gotten really deep here, to be quite honest, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. One thing I got to tell you to bring it back. First of all, Robert, you never need an invitation to come on here. You can stop by as a participant, as a guest on video. I have the ability to have up to 6 people on at one time, and I know you're a busy man, but I really want you back here.
It would be interesting. Off the top of my head, I can't think of a topic, but it would be interesting to explore discovering a topic related to hatting and then having like a panel discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I don't know, 2 or 3 hatters that are at different points in their career, a beginner, an established and an old timer, something like that. And just, I don't know, like hanging around having a cup of coffee talking about the hatting business. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I have 3 hatters here again from different. They're very. I mean, my understanding of their past. There's some similarities, but they're very different in terms of the types of hats that they produce. And I feel like yourself and any combination of them would be a really great discussion for the audience. So I will. What I will do is obviously I'll stay in touch, but I also want to talk a little bit more about for our audience that is not as familiar. How could they find out, like in terms of like, I know you have a set of right, you do custom hats, but you also restore hats and sometimes sell them. Is there a way for them to know what kind of inventory that you have?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't.
Oh, you don't restore. Okay, maybe
I do restore, but
okay.
it's only on for commission.
Okay, got it.
And I think I love that work, and I think that if I lived down the States, particularly in a more southern state, I'd be inclined to carve out a business just restoring Western hats, because I love the work, I love the challenge, and I love the satisfaction of taking a hat that it's like destined for the garbage bin and giving it new life. I just find that in many ways it's more satisfying than building a new hat.
Right.
And it goes in waves. But I used to do a lot more restorations, and when I started out, it was probably a third of my business where it was doing vintage restorations. But now it's infrequent. I did a Borsellino for
I saw that
in the fellow in Florida, Jeff. Yeah, I restored and that was interesting. And the reason I mean it's a long way to send a hat from Florida up here, but the reason I got it was it was a stitched overwelt. And the stitching had popped. And he could not find a hatter that would take that on. And so I guess he just kept widening the circle, and he finally got out to me and said, sent me a picture. And he says, are you interested in doing this, willing to do it? Now, full disclosure, it was my wife who did it.
Oh, okay. Wow.
She has the dexterity and the patience to do. So I took it to her and I said, what do you think? And she said, sure. So we restored it. And at first it looked like we would have to hit the exact holes,
Yeah.
but I was able to through steaming and the fact that it was like a fine
Yeah.
Borsalina felt, that the steam closed up the existing holes.
Right.
We were able to just fold it over and then restitch it. So it wasn't it didn't take that long. But we've done it before with, say, unreeded sweatbands.
Right.
And my wife had stitched, hitting all the original holes, which
Yeah.
is painstaking work.
Precision work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Josh already is down. So Josh is our newer hatter. So he's down for the panel discussion. I'm sure Paul is going to be interested. I'll talk to Brian Forbes and see. But I feel like that's going to be really fun for us to do.
You own a couple of Brian's hats, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And he has, again, I have to bring him back on here. He's a very busy man. And I try not to bug anybody I don't want to obligate anybody to join the panel or join on the stream, because I know everybody has their own lives going on, but it's always an open invite, Check
out. I had a student, a female, who made herself a couple of hats, and she owns a hat. He's a British guy, and he's the son of Vivian Westwood, the famous designer, and I think his brand is a Child of the Jago, Jago, and he was the first to make those oversized hats.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating. I've always wanted to do one just for the hell of it, but what it is like
a really tall crown.
A really tall crown, and you but you block it, I don't know, like 6 sizes too big.
Yeah.
And then instead of a sweatband, it's a foam.
Yeah.
Correct. And that's attached. Yeah. And then and that is how it stays on her head. And so she bought one, and so she brought it over one day to show it to me, and it's
yes, I'll try to bring him back, because again, I feel like because I hopefully I'm not speaking for Brian. I always feel like Brian is more of like artistic, right? Not autistic, but artistic. I want to make sure that's clear. But Brian has a good sense of humor. I'm sure he was not like, "Hey, did you call me autistic?"
Yes,
you jerk. I feel like he is somebody that is, when I see his work, I think of bohemian, like the bohemian quality of his style. And I've never asked him, but once he joins back on, I'm going to ask him that to see what he thinks of that.
There's another fellow, I follow him on Instagram, and I think he's British. And it's Yobolo hats.
Yobolo. Okay, yeah.
Yobolo. Yobolo. And he does he's even more eccentric than Brian is, in that, like, because Brian will make, like, he has a style and he'll make multiple versions of that style.
Right.
Whereas it appears as though Yobolo hats, they're all one-ofs.
They're unique. Yes.
They're absolutely unique. And he sort of walks the line between hat making and millinery. So a lot of his hats are they're hats, but they're also, like, they're not fascinators, they're hats, but they're constructed.
Right.
And it's like it's amazing. And I often wonder, because they're so intricate, like, who buys them?
Yeah.
And how much do they cost?
Yeah.
Because the number of hours that go into these are, it appears staggering.
Yeah. Brian, and again, I want to make sure, again, I've mentioned this on a previous live stream, but I'll repeat it here for those folks that have not heard. Brian extended me what I'm going to refer to. He didn't refer to it as a friends and family discount on a couple of his hats. One of them, if you saw, I called it the Brownton Abbey, and he didn't call it that. I called it that because I view it as art. like now when it became my hat, I now refer to it as the Brown Ton Abbey because it just feels like that's what it should be called. And maybe tomorrow I'll change my mind. But essentially, he gave me a friends and family discount, and he got the hat. He literally shipped them the same day. We were on a video call and shipped them the same day. I received them maybe a few days. I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit more than a few days. And they showed up, and I wore them immediately. And I just got a lot of stares like in my household because they're very different than any hat I've ever owned. And for up until those hats, this D-Bar J that I own, I never met Dave Johnson out of D-Bar J. But this was my most out there hat before before I got the Brian's hats. Only because of the color of the felt.
Is Brian in LA? Where is Brian located?
Yeah, Brian is either in LA or in the Bay Area, one of those two. So yeah, he is very, 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 just a great guy to talk to. He has a very, I don't know, he has like a forward style that I appreciate because it's very honest. He doesn't suffer any fools. He will tell you right there, I don't have time to be going and doing a lot of things, and I respect the hell out of it. Because again, we all don't have a lot of time on this earth. We're very limited in our time, and I'm very respectful of that. But I hopefully he'll be able to make some time to come out here and be part of the panel. But it's not over. Robert, you have endeared yourself to me, and now what I'm going to try to do is to figure out how do I commission one of your works, if assuming that that has. There's not a wait list that I have to kind of wait on. I would love to, to be quite honest, if I'm thinking off the top of my head, I would love to have you craft a his hat, a hat for myself and one for my dad. That's the same hat. His head is a lot larger than mine. But I would love, I don't know if it would be a Hamburg or, obviously I would default to your expertise. And I'll show you photos of my dad.
Yeah, should we? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to do that if you will be willing to undertake that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. I've never done anything like that before.
Yeah, and I talked to Paul about that idea, not that specific idea, but the idea of hatters. Have you ever done a his and her hat? Right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, because hats are very milestone specific, right? Somebody gets married. I would think that somebody would have commissioned a his and her hat for a wedding or something like that.
It's one of the thoughts I had early on, and then I talked myself out of it.
Yeah.
And that's going after the wedding business.
Yeah.
And it can be a lucrative market because anything for a wedding gets marked up. Not quite double, but it's like whenever anybody mentions it's for a wedding, the price goes. And then there's always the horror stories of you're dealing with time, deadlines, and bridezillas, and and it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from that. And then I haven't bothered reconsidering it, but I would like to do more. So right now it's probably as little as 20% are ladies' hats.
Yeah.
And they are all variations on the fedora theme.
Right.
For the most part. And I'd love to do more ladies' hats because the parameters are so much wider. It's like the colorways you can work with, the styles, and I have one woman, she's bought 6 hats, combination of fur and straw,
right?
And, it's she's very stylish.
Yeah,
she dresses quite classic, and she's a petite, kind of a Audrey Hepburn sort of build, and but she says she gets all of these compliments all of the time on her hats, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, where do you get that hat? And she always jokes and she says, well, I have a guy.
Yeah.
I
I
have
know a guy.
yeah, I know a guy. I have a designer. He makes my hats for me. And we're like,
Yeah.
and so our friends are like, oh my goodness, you have a guy. And it's like, but it hasn't, again, it hasn't translated into, like, none of her friends have come and bought a hat from me. But
Right.
they look at her and they admire the hell out of her because she looks so good in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to do more ladies' hats.
Hey, I love that idea. I think that's, again, why ignore such a large percentage of the population? For a lot of the guys that get into this, they kind of tend to stick and cater to the guys. But right, I talked about Morgan, who's a 19-year-old female. She's a moderator on my YouTube channel. She's out there buying Huff Buds and that level of hat at 19.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind. I don't have a Huff Bud,
Yeah.
and I'm far from 19.
Because, I mean, because that's the other thing too, is a lot of 19, 20-year-olds don't have that level of discretionary income.
Correct. And, and I don't know what Morgan's situation is, but regardless, I'm like, God bless, because if you manage to carve that out and you prioritize having a fine hat, especially a Huff Bud, no less, they have some great hats, and I'm like, hey, I wish I had the money and also the inclination when I was 19 to go and wear a fine hat. Maybe my life now would be different. Maybe, I don't know if it'd be better. I don't have any regrets. But I always think about what could have been, right? And we have a question here from Josh, Robert, and then we'll kind of close things out after this question. But what are your thoughts on hat bars?
It's interesting. The first time I'd encountered them was, as I mentioned, we were in Charleston.
Yeah.
And we went into the Chapel Hats, and the young fellow I was talking to, he says, you have to go talk to my partner. She's a bartender over at the Bennett Hotel, which was just across the square. So it was, we'd had dinner, so it was like, yeah, okay, well, we'll go for a nightcap. So we went over to the Bennett Hotel, and young woman was tending bar. Now I have to set it up. Is the Hotel Bennett is $1,000 a night property.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. They just had a renovation, and the lobby is floor to ceiling marble with marble pillars, and the doormen are liveried, and it's just a very expensive place. And Elaine and I had we each had a bourbon, and it was a really generous pour.
Yeah.
But we ordered singles, so it was and the bill was $84.
Yeah.
So that's the I can't remember why I'm saying this, but
Josh was talking about the hat bars. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
No worries.
So it turns out that in the basement of the Bennett Hotel is a hat shop. Now it was in the evening, so it was closed, and it's run by 3 women, and their niche is they run they do custom hat making, but that's a pretty small part of the business. And given that it's $1,000 a night hotel, and 2 bourbons cost us $84, the rent for their premises is not going to be cheap. And they make their money running hat parties, running hat bars. And it's so my take is they take the hat blanks and then the trimmings to a party, and I guess they bring the wine and the cheese, and the women have at it. And so at the end of it, they have a a cheesy hat to wear.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much they charge, but I know Tim at Pure Beaver, it must be a burgeoning industry because
Yeah.
Tim has started a separate company servicing that industry.
Wow.
And he's selling they're not cheap, um, but they're 90% wool, 10% fur content, and then he sells the trimmings as well. So it's like a one stop hat bar source. But I don't it in the conversations with Brent on our Facebook page, and it was one of the things that Brent was really when I took over the moderation.
Yeah.
One of the things that Brent was really clear on is that the site is for custom hats, which is the making the hat starting with a cape line.
Right.
And that we don't
your parameters.
That those are the parameters. It's got to be and we've had to eliminate some people who come on with decorated hats, and it's like, oh, this is we're purists here, and it's like, okay, we're open to criticism of snobbery, but it's like, no, this is not for hat decorators,
right?
And so for me as a custom hat maker, obviously there's a niche for hat bars, but it's certainly not, because at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a wool hat with lots of tchotchkes on it.
Right. And that might be fine for some, right? Meaning everybody there, that might be, again, we know, like Robert mentioned, it might be, it has its place in time, but stick to the parameters, right?
Yeah. It's also, it's interesting, and at the risk of showing my snobbery, it's one of the questions that I've yet to have answered. And even on the Custom Hat Makers Facebook page, there are a lot more of the for want of a better word, like the Bohemian festival hat with the distressing, the decor, the skull imagery, all of that stuff. And it seems that for every classic fedora and fedora maker, there's a dozen people making these Bohemian festival hats, kind of the Nick Fouquet plus.
Right.
And yet, I mean, Vancouver is a cosmopolitan city. Perhaps I don't get out and about enough.
Right.
But I've never seen one of those hats out in the wild. I've never seen anybody wearing one.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask, it's like, okay, there's obviously people are buying them.
Right.
Supposedly, but why are no one, maybe I need to go to Coachella. Maybe I need to go to music festivals, because maybe that's where they're being worn.
Right.
Or on the streets of LA or Oceanside. But it's like,
I think you're onto something in terms of like the idea that some people will buy those hats for certain occasions, maybe to go to concerts, maybe to go to these festivals, or whatever other. I'm sure there's something that we haven't thought about that it's perfect, and you'll see them there all the time. Again, I try to travel as much as I can, but I can't be everywhere. But I also haven't seen too many in the wild, so I can at least vouch for your observation. It could just be that they are in a festival. Let's see, Josh just said, I do wear my restored distressed hat as kind of advertising my hats. Okay, well, there you go. So Josh is wearing them. Again, I've worn Brian's hats, not for any occasion. It's because I bought this thing. I'm going to go out there. I can do it. I can pull it off. And it's just amazing to see the reaction to the snowflakes. That one in particular was the one that caught my eye first when I was looking through his inventory, and I said, "That snowflake." And I'm like, hopefully it's my size. And he's like, "Wait a minute, what size are you?" I told him I'm 7 1/4. It was like, "Oh, all my hats are right around that size because I make them for me first, and then they just happen to pile up." So I don't know. I guess I lucked out. And obviously he's able to make a custom hat for you. But Robert, I will echo that. I haven't seen as many of the distressed hats out there and the more bohemian, but it goes to show you that you have to kind of have a little extra gear, right? So it's one thing to wear, you know, I don't know. I'll just pull out this one. This is my Kubra that I got from Jeff, the gentleman that commissioned that work. I got the Kubra from him. He gave me a great deal, and this is kind of a classic. It has classic lines, you know, classic teardrop. This is something where, you know, your average fedora buyer, they're gonna be proud to wear something like this. Maybe
is that a Style Master?
That's the Style Master. Yes, sir. And it's in navy blue. It's a very classic color, right? We talk about navy blue is kind of like, if you have one suit, chances are you're probably going to try to buy a navy blue suit, maybe a charcoal suit. So a navy blue fedora is going to go well. But something like a more bohemian style or more distressed style, you're going to have a little bit more comfort level with that style. And it's not for everybody. It definitely isn't. So yeah, Robert, wow, man, I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us, right? It's the most precious resource that we have as human beings. And I'm just touched. I had a lot of fun interacting with you, and I'm going to invite you back anytime.
Thank you. It's been fun. I've had a blast.
Excellent. And one thing is, if there's anything that you want to show, I put your information in a scrolling banner down. I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but I told folks how to find you on your Instagram and how to find you on Facebook. Is there any other things that you want to plug for our viewers?
No, Instagram is the best, because there's a really good representation of my work over the years on Instagram, and it's like the @ Robert, or I think if you just Google Wolfbrae Custom Hatters. I have a dedicated page on the Fedora Lounge.
Yes.
And I think that goes back further than my Instagram account. So there's a lot of pictures from very early on. A lot of the earlier ones, the hats that Brent bought from me, or
I believe 2021 is when that started.
Yeah.
Hey, see that sometimes I remember things. I remember.
Yeah. So those are the two best places, and then the custom hat makers page.
Yeah.
More lately. I think I've only been moderating that for a year now. So
yeah. No,
but it gives you a good overview of the kind of work that I do, and then also, it's like, as I said earlier, my goal is that, you know, if there's a hat that you have, you know, a picture in your mind's eye, it's my goal would be to bring that into reality.
Oh, I love it. We'll be in touch, my friend. This has been Robert Gault. I'm gonna Robert, I'll close the show out here, but I'll have you. I'll remove you from the stage. It's been a pleasure, sir. You know, it's like you are tremendous. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, you really are. Even if you don't notice, I gotta imagine that you probably had noticed the impact that you've had. But I just wanted to verify from independent source that you're doing a great job being an ambassador for the community, and we're lucky to have you in this community. And don't go away anywhere, please. We need more of Robert for many, many more years to come.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm gonna. I think as long as my my dexterity and my eyesight hold out, I think I'll because I'm not done yet. You know, I'm not done yet.
That's right. I love it. Robert Gault, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, you have a great day, and I'll be in touch about those hats.
Okay, it's a deal.
All right.
Take care. Thank you.
Have a good one, my friend. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, that was Robert Gault of Wolfbrae Custom Hatters. What a tremendous story, right? You know, I think for for a lot of us, yeah, thank you, Josh. A lot of us that have seen Robert as Belfast Boy on the Fedora Lounge have seen some of his process. Now, actually, Robert's been on the Fedora Lounge for way longer than I have. I'm a relative newcomer into this hobby and into the Fedora Lounge. But you know, excellent group of folks there. If you happen to find your way to the Fedora Lounge, I used to post as Crown Royal. I changed my name since I started this YouTube channel to Good Luke's, and Robert's known as Belfast Boy. And yeah, well, hopefully Robert will indulge us and will come back. I just love hearing his perspective on hats and hat making because he is somebody that has essentially risen from being somebody that's learned the craft to being a more of a mentor, and he's still learning. I'm sure his process is still happening, but that goes to show you that you don't have to be a master to be a teacher, right? So I mean, although I consider Robert a master, he's always very reverential to Art Fawcett. But we already seen here with Paul and with Josh. And I'm pretty sure with Brian as well. I'm going to speak for him because he's not here. But I'm sure that they've all been influenced by Robert. And by definition, if you're influenced by Robert, you're influenced by Art and everybody else that has taught Robert the craft. Getting back to that whole idea of lineage. So I hope you guys had a blast. I want to just kind of do a little bit of a housekeeping stuff. I'll just a reminder, I'm still doing the giveaway. I'm being kind of stuck on 45 subscribers. So, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, I'm going to just pull a little plug here to tell you that I'm giving away this hat after when I reach 100 subscribers. I'll do a video about it. Again, it's not the best hat in the world. It's got some moth bites, but if let's say you want that, this is a 7 1/4, it's a Knox custom, built in Canada. And, maybe you just want a hat that you want to work on, right? Like, let's say you've always wanted to restore a hat, kind of like Paul has talked about and Robert on this stream. Maybe this could be your first hat, or maybe, just maybe, you have a friend or an acquaintance, some sort of acquaintance that doesn't have a fine hat, and maybe this could be their first hat, right? Sometimes, like the idea of the knockaround hat. This Knox that I'm wearing right now is my Knox Tom and Jerry. It is my knockaround hat. You've seen this hat many times on this stream, especially early on, because it's one of those hats that I go to when I don't want to think about what hat I want to wear. I just want to wear something, right? As long as the color's okay. It's a navy blue. It's a little darker. So sometimes it looks a little black. Sometimes it comes out, the blue really pops in the light. It's one of those, it's a very Frank Sinatra style hat, right? I wear it with the brim up, but I can flip that brim down, right? It's a stingy brim, but I can get a little bit of a hat tilt on this, and do a little bit of a old blue eyes, right? You get that little bit Trilby-esque Frank Sinatra style. So it's a very versatile hat, and it's what I call my knockaround hat. So maybe that this Knox will be either your or one of your friends or acquaintances knockaround hat. That's okay. Again, different hats mean different things to different people. If you decide that you don't want to keep the hat, you win it, and you want to give it to somebody else or put it back in the pool, whatever you decide, I will work with you. I might just ask you to cover shipping, only because, again, shipping can get really expensive. And I want to make sure that, I don't get like some sort of ridiculous, I'll have to take out a mortgage to be able to send this hat to you. So yeah, we will work it out. And so if that serves as any kind of motivation to like and subscribe, hopefully it does. But even if you don't want to like or subscribe, right? And you know where I'm going with this, right? Don't make me send Robert or any of my other muscle out there. I got guys all over the place. I got Robert in Vancouver. I got Paul and Ian in the UK. I got Josh out in Alabama, and I got New York covered, as well as DC area. And I got Morgan out in New York as well as Kevin and Steve Goldstein at Craft Hatters. We got you surrounded. So just just do us one solid here so we won't cause any trouble. And stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day and ciao.